Live. I love seeing that. I'm not used to it. It is Saturday, almost evening, and in a past life, Saturday evening was lots of times it was karaoke night, and so it gave me an idea. It made me think more based on something that I just made a tweet about yesterday, and like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it because why the fuck not? Um, I miss singing, and I don't care if I'm good at singing, and I don't care if I'm not good at singing. I miss karaoke, and I figured I may as well use what has been taken away because of COVID as an opportunity to raise some money. So, as you may or may not know already, I am yeah, I've got a fundraiser that I'm part of for Run for Women, where the proceeds, at least out of the Run for Women Winnipeg campaign, the contributions to be distributed go to support women's wellness programs at Mood Disorders Association of Manitoba. I still figuring this life bit out, or life bit, Twitter life, well, figuring life out too, right? But the Twitter live thing should have a link in there available with the donation page. If not, it's pinned on top of my profile regardless. But anyway, with that I am raising or attempting to raise again $1,100 for this year's campaign. But because of COVID, I added a challenge to it originally because of the amount of time that I had to raise funds and just the difference in being able to collect cash as opposed to previous times. And so with that, what I presented as an original challenge was if we're able to surpass $1,100 by race day, which would be July 11th, I'll add a 20-pound training vest when I'm running. And then for extra fun, because why not? To celebrate my 40th birthday on June 7th, if my donation page exceeds $2,200 by the end of my birthday, I will add another 20-pound training vest to my 10K run. And full disclosure, I might have to turn it into a backpack or something, depends how clunky it gets, but that's aside from the point. So those are challenges that I had, and then I was humming and hawing about last night. I was just like, I miss karaoke. So I may as well go ahead and try to use that to raise some money. Really don't care if you like how it sounds or not, but I don't mind embarrassing myself for 3 minutes if it raises some cash for a good cause, right? So with that, I've figured that for anybody who makes a contribution on my donation page for $22, and like you'll notice that I go after multiples 11, right? There's a long history behind it, right? But I do like to use the number 11 as for something in sequence. And so with that, so for any contribution of $22, I'll sing a song. What I'll end up doing is I'll put a poll up for a day, right? 24 hours, 4 songs. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to pick because unfortunately for many, I'm not up to speed on what's new with music. So I'll find 4 songs that I'd be okay-ish with whatever. Put it up for 24 hours, and whatever the most popular poll is, there it goes. So $22 will do that. $55, we'll do 3 songs. We'll do 3 separate songs just for fun, just for shits and giggles. As long as it goes ahead and raises cash, who cares? And then, no specific reason, but if it was $106, I'll sing 6 songs back to back to back to back to back to back. Why not? So with that, I decided to set that as a challenge that is effective immediately. And so yeah, if anyone wants to go ahead and throw $22 down, or 55, or 106, or anything else, any other number, it's just going to be another day. I like to look at those numbers; it's easy to go pay attention to. Shoot me a DM. Let me know that to make sure to see it. And out of the songs that I would put up as a poll, if there's one specifically that you want to hear, it defaults to that. Otherwise, I'll just let 24 hours go by, and whatever wins. So that'll be neat fun. Probably I won't sing any, but I'm not going to lose any sleep either way too. But whatever. Because yeah, the karaoke things come to. I was like, I'm like I sing all the time at home, right? And whatever, and it's just something I've enjoyed. Apparently, I can sing. I'm critical about myself, but from what I hear from others, I can sing. So that'd be neat. And if I can't, then it at least validates for what I believe. I was like, you're just saying it to be kind, but that's aside from the point. And it's funny though, because when it comes to karaoke, when COVID eventually cools off and it becomes a normal thing again, Would I share with others where I go if I go out again? No. Why though, right? Why would I share? Right? Because I'm stalked on the regular. For anyone who doesn't know, I'm stalked. It's I don't know what the right word is. Disgusting is a really good way to put it. No, I'm stalked, right? I'm harassed, and I know that effectively. And even with that, I started using Twitter Live for one thing, just to be present, and second, I got an idea from something I scrolled across in the timeline a while ago because you could see the users that show up, so it just helps validate that for other purposes that I have. So I know for 100% certainty that I am being stalked. So why would I go ahead and share where I go, what I do, because I don't feel like putting any of my peers in the crosshairs of any transphobic violence, right? Why would I go ahead and invite people to go ahead and have a good time with me when some mouth breathing knuckle draggers possibly gonna blow a dog whistle and incite violence to where I am? Why would I do that to anyone else? Maybe I'd get murdered. I don't know, right? But let's just pretend that's an extreme. Bottom line, though, is being trans and being stalked, you have to contemplate what some of the things are. For a backstory for anyone who's really not entirely familiar, that a group of users has been enabled by Energy 106 FM all the way back to late September, and Energy had the opportunity to denounce the behavior because there was harassing, abusive behavior, not just to myself, who's very visibly a strong advocate to the LGBT or for the LGBTQ plus community, and big surprise on the trans community. And even during correspondence with Adam West and Tyler Carr, being like, "Hey, you got some people who are being really rough to members of our community and waving your brand at the same time. You're kind of looking a little bit dumb. You should probably speak up and denounce that because you don't want to look like that, especially if you continue to flout yourself as LGBTQ plus allies and you provide a safe space." So since they chose not to, or pardon me, what was the best that they did? Be kind or whatever it was. Um, yeah, like it was fully enabled. And when what could have been denounced wasn't, and obviously set a very different course, which ultimately, by that definition, means enable. And so with that, though, so I've been I'll use the word victim because that is what it is. There's at least a couple dozen handles that I've kept track of who've been just perpetually stalking and harassing and this and that, and as attempted to go, or I shouldn't say attempted, but I remember the first time that it really got, ooh, okay, this crew is they're trying to be hurtful because at the very beginning of Trans Awareness Week, I'm pretty sure the date was November 13th off the top of my head, decided to introduce, going farther back in my Twitter life and pulling up my former name. Right, my they call it a dead name, Brad. Right, my name is Taylor. It's legally Taylor. I changed my name, and with that, though, I know that dead naming a trans individual is a psychological attack. It's an attempt to devalue and dehumanize a trans individual by saying it doesn't matter who you say you are, here's who you are, you can't run away, right? Or to try to instigate trauma from past life. Like, and the thing that's funny is that I personally, when I came out with the goal of advocacy and education and information. And I understand a lot of trans individuals when they go ahead and reintegrate themselves, right, their authentic selves into an online life, right, whether it was going to be with video game systems or social media platforms or whatever, they will go ahead and often just delete anything that's past previous history, any old avatar, any this and that and whatever, and begin a brand new life from day one, whatever their transversary would be, let's call it that. And I did the exact opposite. I changed my information because I wanted to be visible to people who didn't know already that I transitioned. So that if they're looking through their friends list or followers list or their gaming profiles and seeing who's online or whatever and be like, where'd Brad go? Who the hell is Taylor? And then put two and two together. So for these individuals to go ahead and go into my history and abuse that fact of advocacy and information and visibility is what it is. So that was one thing, and I brought that to Energy, and Energy, of course, said nothing because Energy is not anything, right? And with that, time would continue. And then these individuals, as a community, decided to go even farther back and not just talk about my name, but they brought in my last name now. In a past life, my name was Bradley Lenz. So the thing that's funny, though, is if you go Google Bradley Lenz, the first thing you'll find actually is a different Bradley Lenz who was arrested for child porn in Edmonton. And these individuals tried promoting and affiliating my name to that person, to use transphobic beliefs, to consider myself to be a pedophile, to go ahead and try to defame me. So who knows where these people are going to go? For all I know, they're typing my name every 15 minutes. On the plus side, every 15 minutes, they're going to discover that I'm changing the world for a better place. But how do I know what the extent is? How do I know how many dog whistles get blown? How do I know that I legitimately don't have an opportunity to go buy milk and not get stabbed? I don't have that confidence, unfortunately. So energy, I know you're mentioned on here, and I'd just like to reiterate that. I know you know that, but I just wanted to say it again, in case you forgot. So anyway, with that though, there's some other mentions that I have with there. Like I said, that karaoke, maybe one day, someday I'll be able to go ahead and go out and have some fun with some friends and tell people, hey, I'm going to be at location X, come on down and party. But we'll worry about that another time, because fundamentally, I don't want any of my peers to be in the crosshairs of violence of people who aren't able to control their own emotions. So when the child porn pedophilia bit came out, that's when I decided to really bring the police into this now, because unfortunately, that is a little... Just pretend that was you. You fill in the blank there. So, of course, the Winnipeg Police have been working with me on making sure to take care of this. I was discussing, actually, as a matter of fact, with the RCMP earlier Saturday still, so earlier this week. And again, right, yeah, like I even have a human rights complaint filed, right, against Energy, as a matter of fact, for discrimination. Because I do remember Tyler Carr had an interview that, if you take a look at my YouTube channel, that it was a 5-hour long video. Anyone who watches it, thank you so much. Anyone who can't, I don't blame you. But regardless of that, in that video, that there was an audio clip of Tyler saying that Energy is more than happy to support anybody who's protesting or advocating against their causes. They, like, everyone has a right to do that, and they even said that that they offered security for the individual who's sitting outside the building, was prepared to offer him a lunch. So I just wanted to reiterate that Energy had no problem protecting a protester outside their building, but have had no interest in speaking up and protecting the LGBTQ plus community, who they insist to be allies for. And especially when multiple people have been raising attention to Energy of saying, hey, you've got a bunch of weirdos who are waving your banner, you might be interested in standing up. And since they haven't, again, that's part of the reason why I filed that concern. I'm looking forward to seeing where that goes, because if that's not discrimination, I don't know what it is. So anyway, even beyond that, as I mentioned in November, so November 13th, like I said, that was the interest of dead naming me. And then I made sure to bring that forward. I actually linked United Way on there, just to reference an interview that I did with CMHA, or by liaison of CMHA, who's mentioned in here. And then, as Trans Awareness Week continued to develop, one of our MLAs, Lisa Naylor, ended up posting just a Hey Trans Awareness Week tweet, and I challenged her on that, saying, instead of this, how about we use some of our voices and denounce it, because everyone else is continuing to stay silent. So how about we use the positions that we've been privileged with to speak up, right? Because these are the momentum changing individuals who can go ahead and get the attention of the people who really need to hear. So I spoke with Lisa. That was a nice conversation. Time carries on. On an aside, I've been in correspondence with Uzonis on a very similar note. Same sort of idea, right? We're just discussing what strategies can our city and our province utilize for bettering this type of system. And then even beyond that, just the other day, I received a phone call from Scott Fielding, just again, where, hey, I'm in your neighborhood, right? So let's talk this out, right? If you believe in the safety, right? The safety, keyword, of any constituent in your riding, or your city, or your province, or your country. It doesn't matter who you are, what you believe in, and how you express your beliefs. That no circumstance is anybody qualified to be a victim of abuse, targeted harassment, any evident hate crime, under no circumstances. And so I spoke with Scott Fielding about that. As you can tell, I've been flipping tables. Right? I've been flipping tables enough. I ended up having a correspondence with the executive director of clinic, right? Saying that this like how are institutions who promote wellness, right, and social wellness and betterness, and anywhere as far as like anti-suicide programs, right, and every other type of clinic, pardon the pun, and especially being like a trans resource center in our city. Not to say that it's a specific narrative, but you'd think they would have a little ear. That, hey, it's time. It's time. And then with that, there was a liaison that with the chair of Trans Manitoba. So we've been connected. And as I mentioned CMHA earlier, I've got a meeting coming up with them in the not terribly distant future as well, just again regarding the exact same things, flipping tables. Because everybody and their dog thinks that someone else will take care of it. Or everyone else and their dog is going to go ahead and believe that it's not their problem. And the thing that's important out of all of this is that, as I alluded to, this isn't a trans narrative. This isn't an energy narrative. Sure, we can root it back to kind of what instigated it all. Sure, fine, whatever. If we want to go ahead and say, what happened? But the reality is, if we take away everything else, the common denominator is that there is an abuse happening from the privilege of anonymity and the strength of the internet, frankly, or let's put it that way. That under no circumstances is there anything that can compete fast enough unless the public stands up. This isn't an isolated thing. This isn't a one-off thing that gets quickly solved by filing a police report. And even if it was as quick as that, that is an isolated incident, and there's no education from that. There's no betterment that comes from that. There's nothing going further to say, wow, that's shitty, right? I don't want to put my toes into that pool because I saw what happened last time to that other person. And so that's me flipping the tables again to our politicians, to our support services in the city, and to any media who's watching this, who continue to wonder if they're going to write about it more or speak about it. Any prominent voices who've got the opportunity to speak up and say something and who choose not to because they feel they don't want to get their hands dirty, but are more than happy to wave a, oh, hate's wrong, abuse is wrong type of diatribe. If it's that wrong, prove it. It's as simple as that. There's no neutrality to behavior like this. There's no neutrality at all to discrimination, to hate, to abuse, any phobia of any sort. There's no neutrality to it. You're either causing it, you're allowing it, or you're fighting it. So ask yourself, who are you between those three? One of those promotes positivity. And if you're not fighting it, you're making it worse. It's as simple as that. So whatever happens at any time in your lives, no matter who you are, when you are, where you are, and what you're doing, if you see something that is any type of hate, any type of abuse, push what you're doing aside and call it out. If you were in the grocery store holding a pack of gum, just waiting to buy your stupid little pack of gum, and within earshot you hear a racist comment, are you going to just watch it, or are you going to stand up about it? And if you're going to watch it, stop it. There's nothing any different about this. And it doesn't matter who you are. It's time to shake your heads, because as a community, as Winnipeg, I'm embarrassed with the silence that has come out of it, especially when there are multiple pleas from members of our LGBTQ plus community looking for some sort of attention, for some sort of visibility about, hey, this is kind of weird and scary. I'm telling you right now that Winnipeg is lucky that it's me, because unfortunately, there's a lot of people who would have been on the receiving end of this, and they would have been a statistic. And then all that would have ended up happening is a quick little obit in whatever paper it's going to end up being, maybe a splash in the news about, oh, yeah, no, cyberbullying is kind of bad. We shouldn't do that anymore because it is actually technically a crime. Every single person who hears this, regardless if you're an abuser or an observer or a fighter, be lucky that it's me. Because unfortunately, I will be creating change. I am inspired to create change. That doesn't mean it's not without consequence. As I mentioned, I can't even go ahead and promote what I'm doing with my friends or inviting my friends to do something that I want without this instigation of that's risky. There is fear associated with it because who knows what the depths are of these people or these users or these computers or these whatevers. Nobody knows what the depths are. Not yet, at least. So they say. I limit myself to what I do, again, to keep a leash on things. Been invited to other programs and whatnot. No, it's okay. I'll stay where I am. Because again, how do I know that these users aren't smashing my name looking for another thing to try to go ahead and write me up about? How do I know? How do I know? Somebody tell me how I know. Because I don't, and nobody else does. And that's why, as a community, ages ago, when I called it out, we should have stood up loudly and said, get the fuck out of here with this shit. But everyone else just looked at it and said, and I shouldn't say everyone else, there has been a group of people who have been very supportive with me about it. But what I'm saying are the largest, the most prominent voices, the people who actually have the opportunity to create change immediately, instead of people like me who are screaming for change and who are inspiring change. But the people who are already holding the keys to make change chose to not act anywhere near as much as they could have, should have, and would have if it was something that was in their interest. But everyone continues to look at it as an LGBTQ plus narrative. It's a trans person. I don't know if I want to deal with a trans person and get my, that's going to be controversial. Think about the controversy about what the negative could ultimately be if you choose to not act. Think about that. I've been reaching out to as many places as I can so that this stops. I'm reaching out to places all around the planet. Every single organization that I'm able to find, every time I go ahead and happen to see a user who's interested in discussing human rights or cyberbullying or cybercrime, I'm sending them an email, going on different websites, firing forms off. Hey, pay attention to this narrative. You might be interested in it. And I've had email correspondence with many. I've reached out to places that I know personally. As I mentioned already, right? Having correspondence with Clinic, having correspondence with CMHA, having correspondence with Run for Women, just to let them know that how their program is being advertised. I shouldn't say just to follow up, because I did make a mention about that. Same thing with Shoppers Drug Mart and Mood Disorders Association of Manitoba. Don't know if they want to have their program advertised by a very visible transphobe who's a stalker, right? Not going to say that that's a huge issue, but you probably don't want to have your brand affiliated with it. So having good quality conversation, as a matter of fact, with the National Director of Run for Women was a positive, which inspired the further bit when it came to Clinic, CMHA, and so on and so on and so on about, hey, where are you guys again? I just want to really make sure. Are you part of the city? Are you part of the community? Or do you just say you are? If you're watching this video, it doesn't matter who you are, when you are, what you're doing. I really don't care. Create positive change. And if you don't feel you have the ability to create positive change, ask how. It's pretty straightforward. Hey, this isn't right and I don't know what to do. I'm not going to say that there was an advocate that might have been able to share the conversation and chose not to very visibly. Shoulder's still cold, as a matter of fact, from that one. But if you don't know how to create change, ask. Because if you're complicit with the world that is as it isn't getting better anytime soon. We need people to work together, not people to assume everyone else is working and solving things individually. It's sad that needs to be reiterated. I'm telling you right now that I'm a fireball, and everybody knows that. And think again about the people who aren't. They might not even be here to have this conversation. So for everyone watching this, be grateful that I'm able to have this conversation. I'm looking forward to seeing positive change. I'm looking forward to seeing where the follow-ups are going to end up being. And I'm especially looking forward to seeing more people make more noise Because at this rate, it's 2020 2.0. Let's have 2021 actually happen. It'd be really neat. Everyone talks about a new change, a great change. Prove it. Just prove it.